But today I'm going to be continuing my Java for Beginners tutorial, as you can see up here. This is episode 8. Today we're going to be looking at some loops. We're going to do specifically the while loop, the for loop, and the do while loop. And I'll explain all the differences between those when we get into it. So as I said in the last video, I just did the class initialization and the main statement. I'm not going to continue doing that for you. I think I've done it enough for you by now. You should know that you need to do it. So, to begin, we're going to start with the while loop. So the basic formula for that is you begin with the keyword while. And then you do the parentheses. And as always, within the parentheses, you're going to have your parameters or your condition. And that can be while, we'll just put conditions in here. And then you do your curly braces as always. And then whatever code you're going to, execute. There we go. But as always, the curly braces are going to be down. So anyway, I'll give you an example of what that'll look like. While, and then like that. So we don't have any conditions right now, so there it is. Alright. So while loops, I guess what we can do with those is we can do while certain numbers equal other numbers, so we can have our variables section as always. And one of the things I see like while loops for when in the beginning like tutorials kind of are like rolling dice. So if we had int die1 equals 0, maybe if I did that right, there we go, and then int die2 equals 0, we can do 2 dice, and then we need to import the random class because we're going to be randomly generating number for the die rolls. So we can go import java.util.random, and there we go, and we need to initialize random object. There we go, and random object name equal new random, there we go. And there we have it. So basically there's a lot of things you can do with this. You can say while die1 plus die2 does not equal a certain number, or while die1 minus die2 does not equal a certain number, or something along those lines. You can use your operators that we used before, like logical operators and stuff like that. So I guess in this case we'll just go while die1 plus die2 does not equal any number. We can go anywhere between 1 and 10, and it would be, let's just go 10 or 12. Actually it would be 12 would be the highest we could go. I don't know what I'm talking about. So then you have your while die1 plus die2 does not equal. So that we can go system.out.print line. You can put whatever is in here. So the dice do not equal 12. Now, there's something I want you to notice here. This is an infinite loop. Now the reason for that is, as you'll notice, I'm not generating any new numbers for the dice. So this is going to execute once, because 0 plus 0 does not equal 12. So it's going to be true, but the while, it is a loop. It is a loop, don't forget that. So it's going to loop continually while this condition is true. So the way I have it set up now, we're not manipulating the number for the dice. So basically that means that this is going to be true forever. So once we initiate this loop, it's just going to keep going. Now, you really, really, really don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to show you what's going to happen. So if I run it, it's actually not, it's going to just continually generate the dice do not equal 12. and now I have to stop it. But you got to be careful with that, because if you do it actually during runtime, it's going to screw up a whole bunch of stuff. So you want to be careful with that. So what we can do is we can actually generate new numbers for the dice. So die1 equal my random.next int. Actually, I forgot the int. There we go, int. And then we can, a normal die is 6 sides. So we can go 6, and then to get it to actually equal 1 through 6 instead of 0 through 5, we have to do the +1. And then you can do the same thing for die 2. And if we run it, we can see that it does not equal 12, 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 and then it actually terminates, which is good, because we finally generated 2 6s, I guess, technically, which I'm actually surprised it was that fast. It's 4 repetitions of the loop, which isn't too bad, actually. So there's that. You just want to be really careful of careful not to initiate an infinite loop with that, and that's with all loops. You have to be careful with that. So that's just an example of how you can do that. And of course, as always, you can nest other loops, or you can even nest if statements and stuff in those. So you can just put whatever code you want in this while loop, and it's going to execute until it's done. I'll talk about nesting. I can go ahead and talk about nesting right now. You can nest loops in loops. There we go. So if I add another while loop, for example, I can do while die1 plus die2 equals does not equal, let's say, 11, and then we're going to we just go system.out.println the dice also do not equal 11. And that'll happen for each repetition of this while loop. So again, you're going to want to be careful of infinite loops. Right now it's going to be infinite if it even initiates the first time. So what we can do is we can get new values for those. There really is not going to be a whole lot of situations where you do something like what I'm doing right now, but you will have the opportunity to nest loops. So I just wanted to show you. This works for all loops, by the way. So I don't really want to run it because it's going to run forever, but there you go. See, it's going to... wow. Yeah, it's going to take a while, so I'm just going to stop that. And, so yeah, there's that. Alright, so we can come out and we can see... So that's pretty much all I've really got for while loops right now. But now we can go to for loops. And those are set up similarly. Basic formula. You can go for, and then you're going to put your parentheses with your conditions, as always. So for loops are used mostly for doing something a certain number of times. So what you can do is you can you have 3 values basically, or you have kind of 3 sections of this conditions section here, the parentheses. And the first is where you take kind of a integer that you're going to increment by a certain number each time you go through the loop, basically. So you have your variable, and you can initiate oh my goodness, you can initialize this variable right in here. So you're going to have a variable type, and then you're going to have a variable name, and then you can take a variable value. And this, I'll talk about the scope for that in a minute. So then you can put like your semicolon thing there to split into this next section. So the next section is going to be for how long you're going to do this loop. So basically, most of the time with for loops, you're going to make it execute the loop until this variable that you defined here hits a certain value. So if I go var name is, say, less than or equal to 10 or something like that. And then you can split it off into the next section by putting a semicolon. And you're going to put the kind of next, this next section is what's going to happen after you're done going through the loop. So a lot of the times people will do, say, var name plus plus to increment the variable each time you go through. So that will give you cause to terminate the loop because you're going to have the variable name and it's going to increment by a certain number. It could be, say, 10, whatever you want, each time you go through the loop. So this basically, if you initialize this variable to, say, 0, it'll go through the loop like 10 or 11 times. It's something like that. It'll go through the loop until this new value here is less than or equal to 10. Anyway, so let's move on. I'll show you an example. All right. So we have 4, and then a lot of times people use I as the name for the integer that they use. And you can initialize it right in there, or you can even take a value from outside. So like if you had user input and you wanted to say, you said to the user, well, how many times do you want to do this? You can take your user input, and then if I had a variable called like user input, there we go, you could initiate the value to that, but we don't, so it's going to yell at me, so I'm just going to go to 0 for this. So then so the next section is how long we're going to do this. So if I wanted to, I'm going to actually comment this all out. I don't know how I want to do that. Yeah, well, I'm just going to comment all this out real quick, guys. There we go. So it doesn't continually just loop all the time when I want to run for this next loop. So sorry about kind of cutting off in the middle of what I was saying there, but we can do this, say, 10 times. So we'll go variable, or I, that's the name of our variable, is less than, say, 10. So since we initialized it to 0, it will start from 0, and then if we increment it like I did in the example above, we can start at 0, and it'll go up 1 every time we go through, as you can see by the I++. So we'll go once for 0, twice for 1. So if I put it less than 10, it'll go until it is 10, which is about 10 repetitions, and then it will terminate. It will not continue. So if I did something like system.out.print line, right, we can do our literal as this is loop, and then we can add the value of I onto the end of that so we can see what the loop number is. Well, maybe we'll initialize that to 1 then and make it less than or equal to 10, because then it'll represent what we want it to represent. So again, I can start that, and then as you see here, it starts at loop 1 and goes all the way down through loop 10 and terminates. As you can see, it is not running. I can't stop it. So that's that. But again, you want to be wary of infinite loops. And I mean, you kind of have to try to do an infinite loop on this one, but I mean, it can happen by accident. But if I was to say I minus minus, so basically the value would stay the same as it loops. It would just continually loop at this loop. This is loop 1. As you can see down here, it's just continually running for this is loop 1. And I'll just stop that so we can get out of that loop there. So then take that away, and there's our for loop. Alright, so next, the last real loop that I've got here is the do while loop. Now, you might be asking, wait, what's the difference between do and do while? Well, the formula for a do while is do, or is, wait, yeah, it's lowercase, is do, and then you're going to have the code to execute, and then after you have the code, you're going to have a while, and then you're going to have conditions with a semicolon on the end. Now notice the semicolon on the end, so we got to tell it we're ending there. Usually with the blocks of code, we don't have to have that. So if I just go ahead and show you an example, we have do, we have our block, so then we can go while and have our conditions and end it. So there it is. Now the difference, as you'll notice, the conditions are at the end of the do while, but the while, the conditions are right up at the front. So the do while will be executed at least once every time because it does not check conditions first, but the while loop may or may not be executed at all because it has to check the conditions first. So like if I had die 1 and die 2 equal to 6 at the beginning, this while loop would not even initiate, but this do would. So if I used the same kind of stuff that's in the while loop, I could do die 1 plus die 2 does not equal 12, and we can system.out.print line, make it so the dice do not equal 12. There we go. And then if I was to die 1 equal my random dot next int 6 plus 1 die 2 equal my random dot next int 6 plus 1. So if I did that and I changed these up here to be equal to 6 right from the beginning, I'll save that and then run it. You'll notice, let me go up to the top of this run. You'll notice that it did not do the while loop. There is no, it goes right to the for loop. This is loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But if I come down here, you'll notice that the dice do not equal 12, and that actually only went through once. So, wow, that was really lucky, actually. We got the same exact numbers for our roll through. Let me try that again, see if it does the same thing. Nope, it did it for more this time. See, as you can see, wow, it did it for a lot that time. Okay. So as you can see, it is changing our values. So then you'll notice that the while did not execute at all, but the do while did because it did not check conditions first. So then if I change these back to 0, save it and run it again, you'll notice that, there we go. You'll notice that both the while and the do while executed. Alright, so again, you're going to want to be careful of infinite loops. Same with all the loops. I'm not going to show you another one again because I'm too lazy to do it. Alright, I need to stop laughing in these. My laugh sounds terrible in these videos. So at any rate, that's pretty much it for this video. Just showing you some loops, and there's a lot of things you can do with loops, and I hope you liked them. As always, you can find the code for this on ButteredGaming.com/source. I should probably start saying that before I do the videos, like before I start, because then you can, if you don't know about the videos, you can go get the source code before you watch the video. But at any rate, there it is. I'll have the link in the description below, as always. So
Hope you liked the video. If you did, you can click on the previous general upload there to see a Minecraft Dual Players episode, or you can click on the previous playlist upload there to see the previous upload in this playlist if you haven't already.